Looking back, we should have known better than to attack their colony. But how were we supposed to know? Humans were supposed to be soft, fragile things, the primitive mammals with delusions of grandeur. That's what all our intelligence reports said. Hey, intelligence reports. What a joke. My name is Zerk Tarlock, Chief Military Historian of the Dracarian Dominion, and I'm recording this account as a warning to any species foolish enough to underestimate humans, especially one particular human. The one they came to call the Harbinger. Her real name was Mira Kovac. The first time I saw her was through surveillance footage after our initial assault on the human settlement on Proxima B. Not that we called it that. To us, it was Outpost 9, a strategic location we needed for our expansion. The humans were simply in the way. These creatures built this colony in less than 10 years? Commander Vex had asked, mandibles clicking in disbelief as we observed their infrastructure from orbit. Impossible. Not impossible, sir. Just unexpected, replied Lieutenant Dranek, our intelligence officer. Poor Dranek. Always so cautious. Maybe if we'd listened to him more carefully. Their defenses are minimal, Vex continued, 6 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the scans. Pathetic, really. A few pulse cannons, some atmospheric shields. Nothing our warships can't handle. Sir, permission to speak freely? Dranek's voice trembled slightly. I remember noticing that and thinking he was being overly dramatic. Granted, but make it quick. The assault teams are ready. Our psychological profiles suggest humans are tenacious when cornered. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic. Diplomacy? Vex roared, slamming his armored claw against the command console. The Supreme Director wants this system secured in 3 cycles. We don't have time for diplomacy with primitives. And that was that. The decision was made. 26 warships against 1 small human colony. It should have been a massacre. Well, it was a massacre, just not the kind we anticipated. The initial bombardment went according to plan. Our ships tore through their meager defenses like they weren't even there. Plasma cannons reduced their external structures to molten slag. The humans tried to fight back, give them credit for that, but their weapons were hopelessly outmatched. Status report, Vex demanded, mandibles twitching with pleasure as the view screens showed explosions blossoming across the colony's surface. Sir, their defensive grid is down. Atmospheric shields failing. Estimated civilian casualties at 60% and climbing, reported Tactical Officer Gruen. Excellent. Prepare ground forces for deployment. I want survivors rounded up for processing. That's when something unexpected happened. A transmission cut through our communications, displaying on every screen in the command center. A human face, female by their dimorphism standards. Dark hair pulled back, eyes reflecting the fires burning around her. Behind her, chaos reigned as colonists fled burning buildings. Who authorized this transmission? Vex demanded. Nobody, sir, the communications officer stammered. She hacked our network. The woman on screen wasn't screaming or begging like we expected. No, she was eerily calm. Blood trickled from a gash on her forehead, but she didn't seem to notice. My name is Mira Kovac, Chief Security Officer of New Horizon Colony, she said, voice steady despite the explosions behind her. To whoever's in charge of this attack, remember my face. Remember my name. Because I'm going to be the last thing you ever see. Vex laughed. Actually laughed. Such bravado from a dying species. Cut the transmission. I can't, sir. She's locked us out of our own systems. Mira continued. You have killed my husband, my daughter, everyone I love, so I have nothing left to lose. And that makes me very, very dangerous. She leaned closer to the camera. See you soon. The transmission cut. Several officers nervously chittered amongst themselves. Nonsense. Empty threats. Vex declared, we continue with the assault. I want that colony secured within the hour. I wish I could say I objected, that I saw what was coming. But I was just as arrogant as the rest. We all were. The ground assault began. 10,000 elite Dracarian warriors, the finest soldiers in 3 galaxies, descended upon what remained of the human colony. From our command ship, we watched through their helmet cameras as they moved through the smoking ruins. Minimal resistance, reported Ground Commander Plek. Most survivors are hiding in underground bunkers. We are flushing them out now. Excellent, Vex purred. Have the processing ships prepare for. Sir. Energy spike detected from the colony's central power facility. Interrupted Sensor Officer Krill, antennae quivering in alarm. And what? That's impossible. We destroyed their reactor. No, sir, we damaged it. But readings indicate, wait, this can't be right. Speak, officer. Sir, they are overloading the reactor core. At current levels, the explosion will take out everything within 50 kilometers. Vex's exoskeleton paled. Order all ground forces to evacuate immediately. But it was too late. Through the helmet cams, we saw them, dozens of humans emerging from hiding places, attacking our soldiers with primitive but effective weapons. Not running away from the reactor, but keeping our forces from escaping. Sacrificing themselves to ensure our troops couldn't retreat. And through one helmet cam, I saw her again. Mira Kovac, blood-streaked and wielding some kind of makeshift flamethrower, leading the counterattack. The camera zoomed in as she approached the fallen Dracarian soldier. I told you I'd see you soon, she said, her voice terrifyingly calm. Then she pointed upward, toward our ships in orbit. Next time I'm coming up there. The feed cut out as the reactor detonated. The explosion was magnificent in a horrifying way. A blinding flash that consumed our entire ground force and what remained of the colony. The shockwave damaged 3 of our lower orbiting ships. Casualties? Vex asked, voice uncharacteristically quiet. All ground forces lost, sir. Total fatality rate, 100%. 10,000 elite warriors. Gone. Along with all the remaining human colonists. Or so we thought. Begin scanning for survivors, Vex ordered after a long silence. Sir, preliminary scans indicate a small ship launched from the far side of the colony just before detonation. It appears to have slipped past our blockade during the explosion. What? Find it. Track it. I want it destroyed immediately. But the ship was gone, lost in the debris field and radiation from the explosion. A tiny vessel, barely large enough for 1 human. We should have hunted that ship across the galaxy. We should have dedicated every resource to finding it. But Commander Vex, concerned about reporting such a catastrophic loss of ground forces to the Supreme Director, decided to declare the mission a success. The colony was destroyed after all. Strategic objective achieved. The escape pod was dismissed as irrelevant. 1 human posed no threat to the mighty Dracarian dominion. We returned home as conquering heroes. Commander Vex was promoted to Fleet Admiral. The Supreme Director was pleased with our swift elimination of the human presence in the Proxima system. And for 6 months, all was well. Then the attacks began. First, it was just intelligence breaches, classified information appearing on public networks, security protocols failing for no apparent reason, military communications experiencing mysterious interruptions, annoying but not threatening. Probably just system glitches, the tech specialist said. Nothing to worry about. Then supply ships started disappearing. Just a few at first on remote routes. Then more frequently on major shipping lanes, always without distress calls. They simply vanished. When we finally captured surveillance footage from a space station near one of the disappearances, no one could believe what we saw. A single ship, small and quick, using technology that looked cobbled together from multiple sources. It would appear, fire strange energy pulses that disabled our vessel's dock and then depart minutes later. The crew would be found alive but in a state of unconsciousness that our medical teams couldn't explain. And painted on the side of this mysterious vessel? 2 words in the human language, remember me. Admiral Vex refused to make the connection. Coincidence, he insisted. Some other species must have found human wreckage and is using their writing to confuse us. But I knew. Deep in my carapace, I knew. 3 months into these attacks, a high-security military research facility was breached. Not just breached, completely infiltrated. The intruder walked right through our most advanced security systems like they didn't exist. Bypassed DNA scanners, retinal locks, neural patterns, everything. Security footage showed a figure in strange armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Moving with purpose, never rushing, disabling guards with some kind of sonic weapon that left them alive but incapacitated. The intruder downloaded our entire weapons database, the locations of all our military installations, command codes for our defensive systems, everything. And then, instead of sneaking out, they walked calmly to the facility's central atrium and removed their helmet. Mira Kovacs stared directly into the security camera, older now with a scar running down the left side of her face. Her eyes were different, not just in color, which had somehow changed from brown to an unnatural electric blue, but in their expression. There was nothing human in that gaze anymore. Admiral Vex, she said, somehow knowing he would see this footage. I made you a promise. Now I'm keeping it. She placed a small device on the floor, replaced her helmet, and walked out. By the time security forces arrived, she was gone. The device was a holographic projector containing detailed files on every officer who had participated in the attack on her colony. Their names, their homes, their families. A message that couldn't be clearer: I know who you are. I know where to find you. The Supreme Director finally took notice. Emergency meetings were called. Security protocols were strengthened. Admiral Vex was questioned extensively about the human colony attack. Why hadn't he reported the escape pod? Why had he dismissed the threat? It's one human. He kept insisting. One against our entire military. What could she possibly do? We found out 2 weeks later when 3 of our major military shipyards exploded simultaneously. Thousands dead. Billions in damage. At production set back years. At each site, the same message appeared on every surviving computer screen: this is for New Horizon. This is for my family. I'm just getting started. The Supreme Director personally stripped Vex of his rank and appointed Fleet Commander Trask to hunt down this human threat. Trask, unlike Vex, didn't underestimate Mira Kovacs. He studied her, analyzed her attacks, tried to predict her movements. She's not working alone, Trask announced during a high-level briefing I attended. The pattern of attacks, the level of intelligence she has about our operations, she has help. Impossible, said Minister of Interior Security Clacks. No species would dare ally themselves against the Dominion. Not ally, Trask clarified. She's recruiting. Our intelligence suggests she's gathering mercenaries, outcasts, anyone with a grudge against us. And she's offering them something valuable in return. What could a lone human possibly offer? Someone asked. Trask's mandibles clicked grimly. Our technology. The data she stole. She's trading it for loyalty, for ships, for weapons. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. She's building an army, I said, finally understanding. Trask nodded slowly. Not just an army, a revolution. As if to confirm his words, our emergency communications system activated. On every screen in the room, in every government building throughout the capital, Mira Kovacs' face appeared. She looked different again. More mechanical implants visible around her eyes and at her temples. Her once human appearance becoming something other. People of the Dracarian Dominion, she began, her voice echoing through halls of power across our world. Your leaders lied to you. They told you the attack on New Horizon Colony was a glorious victory against a threatening enemy. The truth? It was a massacre of civilians, families, children. Images began flashing beside her, surveillance footage from the attack, showing the colony before our bombardment. Peaceful. Thriving. Then the devastation afterward. I am not a terrorist, she continued. I am justice. Your government destroyed everything I loved. So I'm going to take everything they love. Starting now. Delay. The transmission cut out just as our planetary defense alarms began blaring. On our scopes, we detected a fleet of ships emerging from hyperspace. A cobbled-together armada of different designs, different origins, united under one banner, a simple image of a phoenix rising from ashes. And at the center of this fleet, a massive vessel unlike anything we'd ever seen. Part Dracarian, part human, part something else entirely. On its hull, in giant letters visible even from the planet's surface, New Horizon. The second attack had begun, and Mira Kovac was leading it. A panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. That's what gripped our capital as Mira Kovac's fleet descended upon us. How did they get past our early warning systems? Shouted Defense Minister Grax, spittle flying from his mandibles. They didn't get past them, explained Fleet Commander Trask grimly. They shut them down. Completely. Using our own command codes. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. No enemy had ever breached Dracarian space, let alone reached our homeworld. Activate the planetary shield grid, ordered the Supreme Director, his usually composed demeanor cracking. We are trying, sir, replied the systems officer. But the grid isn't responding. Sir, I think it's been reprogrammed. On the main view screen, we watched as Mira's fleet formed a perfect blockade around our world. Not attacking, not yet. Just waiting, taunting us with our own helplessness. Get me Admiral Vex, demanded the Supreme Director. When nervous aide approached, Sir, former Admiral Vex was found dead in his residence 30 minutes ago. Security footage shows a figure matching the human's description entering his quarters last night. She had been on our planet, walking among us. For how long? The comm system crackled to life again, all channels broadcasting simultaneously. People of Draca, Mira's voice echoed throughout the capital city. Your government has 2 hours to surrender those responsible for the New Horizon massacre. If they comply, I will spare your civilian population. If not... Was... She paused. Well, you have seen what I'm capable of. The Supreme Director slammed his fist down. Preposterous. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Launch all available ships. Scramble every fighter. I want that fleet destroyed. What followed was the most one-sided battle in Dracarian history. Our ships, the pride of our military, couldn't even get close to Mira's fleet. Some kind of energy field disabled their systems as soon as they approached. Fighters dropped from the sky like dead insects. Ground-based weapons malfunctioned or turned on their operators. How is this possible? Whispered Minister Grax. It's like she knows every weakness in our defense systems. Because she does, I replied, finally understanding the full extent of her preparation. The data breach at the military research facility. She didn't just steal information about our weapons. She learned how to control them. 2 hours passed. No surrender was offered. Mira's voice returned, but different this time. Colder, mechanical almost. Time's up. You made your choice. Her flagship, the massive New Horizon, began to descend directly toward the government district. Smaller ships spread out over the capital, positioning themselves above key military installations. Still, no weapons were fired. They are landing, reported a tactical officer. Ground forces deploying from multiple ships. How many? Demanded Trask. Sensors indicate approximately 500 combatants. 500? The Supreme Director laughed, relief flooding his voice. Against our planetary defense force of millions? This is suicide. But Trask wasn't laughing. Sir, these readings, these aren't just any soldiers. They are showing biological signatures from at least 20 different species. And their weapons. The first explosions rocked the government complex before he could finish. Not from orbital bombardment, but from inside our most secure buildings. Somehow they had already infiltrated our defenses. Evacuate the Supreme Director. Trask ordered. Get him to the emergency bunker. Security forces surrounded the Supreme Director, rushing him through hidden passages designed for exactly this scenario. I followed, more out of fear than duty. Behind us, the sounds of battle grew closer. The emergency bunker was the most secure location on the planet. Buried kilometers beneath the surface, protected by layers of energy shields, accessible only through a single heavily guarded elevator shaft. No enemy could possibly reach it. As the elevator descended, carrying the Supreme Director, his key advisors, and their security detail, I felt a momentary sense of relief. At least we would survive this unexpected assault. The doors opened into the bunker's antechamber. 20 elite guards stood at attention, welcoming their leader to safety. Except something was wrong. Their postures were too rigid. Their eyes vacant. "Welcome to my new command center," said a voice from behind the guards. They parted in perfect unison, revealing Mira Kovacs sitting casually in the Supreme Director's chair. She had changed even more since the security footage, cybernetic enhancements visible along her jawline, that unnatural blue glow in her eyes more pronounced, wearing armor that seemed to shift colors, adapting to the lighting. "How?" the Supreme Director gasped. "How did I get here before you?" Mira smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I have been here for days. Your guards have been under my control since yesterday." She tapped a small device on her temple. "Neural override technology. Fascinating stuff. Your scientists were developing it for use against enemy populations. Ironic, isn't it? The Supreme Director's security team suddenly turned their weapons on us instead of protecting us." "Please sit," Mira gestured to the chairs around the command table. "We have much to discuss." The Supreme Director, for perhaps the first time in his long life, found himself without options. He sat. We all did. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Justice," she replied simply. "But not the way you think." She stood, circling the table slowly. "I could kill you all. It would be easy, satisfying even. But then I'd be no better than you." "We are at war," the Supreme Director said stiffly. The attack on the human colony was a necessary military action. Mira laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Necessary? You slaughtered civilians, children. My daughter was 6 years old. Regrettable collateral damage." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Mira's expression hardened, but she maintained that unnerving calm. "Let me tell you what happened after your necessary military action," she said. "When the reactor was about to blow, I put my daughter's body in an escape pod. I planned to die with the colony, to join my husband and the rest of our people. But at the last second, I was grabbed and thrown into the pod by my friend Thomas. He launched it remotely as the reactor detonated." She stopped pacing, her gaze distant. "I drifted for weeks, food running out, air systems failing. My daughter's body preserved in the pod's cryo unit because I couldn't bear to eject her into space." The room was silent, all of us transfixed by her story. "I was rescued by a Vexillian research vessel. They weren't supposed to be in that system. Your blockade had warned all ships away. But Vexillians never could resist their scientific curiosity. That explained how she'd survived. The Vexillians, with their advanced biotechnology and notorious disregard for interspecies politics. They saved my life, rebuilt parts of me that were damaged by radiation. And when they learned what happened to New Horizon, they were disturbed. Apparently, not everyone in the galaxy approves of civilian massacres. The Vexillians have long been troublemakers," growled Defense Minister Grax. "Their interference in Dominion affairs is—" "Shut up," Mira said quietly, and Grax immediately fell silent, as if physically unable to continue speaking. "Another neural override?" "The Vexillians gave me a choice. They could heal me, give me a new identity, help me build a new life somewhere far from Dracarian space. Or they could help me get justice. By attacking our homeworld," the Supreme Director asked incredulously. "This isn't justice. This is revenge." "No," Mira replied. This isn't the attack. This is the negotiation. She pressed a button on her wrist device, and the bunker's main view screen activated, showing a live feed of her fleet in orbit. But now the ships were opening what appeared to be cargo bays. "Do you know what my people were doing on New Horizon?" she asked. "We were terraformers, specialists in planetary adaptation. Your intelligence reports probably told you that much. What they didn't tell you is what we were working on when you attacked." The camera zoomed in on the open cargo bays, revealing thousands of small, cylindrical objects. "Atmospheric nanites," she explained, "designed to transform toxic atmospheres into breathable ones. My husband led the research team. Brilliant work. Revolutionary." A chill ran down my spine as I began to understand. With some modifications, she continued, these nanites can do the opposite. Transform breathable atmosphere into toxic gas. One canister would kill everyone in a city. I have enough to cover your entire planet. You would commit genocide? The Supreme Director gasped. Kill billions of innocents? Regrettable collateral damage, she replied coldly, throwing his words back at him. Fleet Commander Trask leaned forward. If you were going to release them, you would have done so already. What do you really want? A flicker of respect crossed Mira's face. Finally, someone who understands negotiation. You are right, Commander. I don't want genocide. I want change. She activated a holographic display showing a document. This is a peace treaty. It establishes an independent human territory in what you call the Proxima system. It commits the Dracarian Dominion to reparations for New Horizon. And most importantly, it transforms your government from military rule to civilian democracy. The Supreme Director laughed. Absurd. The Dominion has ruled through strength for 10,000 years. Our people wouldn't accept. Your people are already accepting it, Mira interrupted, switching the view screen to news broadcasts from across the planet. Crowds in the streets. Government buildings occupied not by her soldiers, but by Dracarian civilians. While you were hiding in your bunker, I have been broadcasting the truth, the unedited records of the New Horizon attack. The secret files showing how many other species you have pacified over the centuries. Your people are learning that their glorious empire is built on atrocities. This is treason, sputtered the Supreme Director. No, Mira corrected. This is revolution. And it's already won. She wasn't bluffing. Reports flooded in from across the Dominion, military commanders standing down, colonial governors pledging allegiance to the new provisional government, subject species rising up against their Dracarian overlords. How? I asked, professional curiosity overcoming my fear. How did you orchestrate all this in just 6 months? Mira's expression softened slightly. The historian. Always asking the important questions. She seemed to consider how much to reveal. I had help. From the Vexillians, yes. But also from within your own government. People who were tired of endless war and oppression. Traitors, hissed the Supreme Director. Patriots, she countered. People who loved their civilization enough to save it from itself. She turned her unnerving gaze on me. You will document this transition, historian Tarlock. Show your people that this isn't a human conquest. It's a Dracarian renaissance. Over the next several hours, I witnessed history unfold in that bunker. The Supreme Director, faced with the choice between signing the treaty or watching his world burn, eventually relented. Defense Minister Grax and several hardliners were taken into custody to face trial for war crimes. Fleet Commander Trask, surprisingly, pledged to support the new government. And Mira Kovac? As soon as the treaty was signed and verified, she did something none of us expected. She collapsed. Ah! Medical emergency, shouted one of her soldiers, rushing to her side. I later learned he was Thomas, the friend who had forced her into the escape pod. The truth came out during her treatment. The cybernetic enhancements that had made her so formidable were killing her. The Vexillian technology wasn't designed for human physiology. Every day she used it shaved weeks off her life. She knew, Thomas told me privately, as Vexillion doctors worked to stabilize her. She knew from the beginning that the upgrades would eventually kill her. But she needed them to pull this off. She sacrificed herself for revenge? I asked. Not revenge, he corrected firmly. Justice. And not just for humans. For every species the Dominion has oppressed, including yours. I didn't understand then. It took years of documenting the transformation of Dracarian society to truly comprehend what Mira Kovac had accomplished. She survived, though much of her cybernetic enhancements had to be removed. The glowing blue eyes returned to their natural brown. The mechanical precision of her movements gave way to human frailty. She retired to a small settlement established at the site of New Horizon Colony, where she oversaw the construction of a memorial to those lost in the attack. Our paths crossed again 5 years later when I visited New Horizon to interview her for the official historical record. The colony was thriving again, but different. Humans working alongside Vexillions, Tarka refugees, even some Dracarians who had chosen to leave the Dominion. Was it worth it? I asked her as we stood before the memorial wall where thousands of names were etched in stone. Her daughter's and husband's names were at the center. Worth what? She asked. Older now, gray streaking her once dark hair. Everything you sacrificed. The years of your life. The person you had to become. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the names. I lost everything in their first attack. My family. My humanity in some ways. But the second attack? The one I led? It gave something back. Not just to me, but to everyone. Freedom, I suggested. She shook her head. Something more valuable. A chance to build something better than what came before. She turned to face me. Your people aren't conquerors anymore. They are creators, explorers, partners. Isn't that worth any sacrifice? I couldn't argue with the results. The Dracarian Reformation, as historians now call it, transformed our society from a military empire to a cooperative federation. Our technology, once used primarily for weapons, now serves to heal, build, connect. Former subject species sit on our governing council as equals, all because one human refused to let her tragedy be meaningless. The official records list Mira Kovac as the architect of the Reformation. Some particularly dramatic accounts call her the harbinger of change. But to those who knew the truth of New Horizon, she had a different title, the last colonist. I'm completing this account now because Mira Kovac died yesterday. Natural causes, the medical report says. She was 67, old for a human who had endured what she had. The settlement at New Horizon is preparing a state funeral that will be attended by leaders from across the galaxy, including our own prime citizen. In her personal effects was a message for me, knowing I would be the one to document her passing for the historical record. It read simply, tell them the truth, historian, all of it, the good and the bad, so no one ever forgets what happens when empires value conquest over compassion. And so I have. This is the unvarnished account of how a single human brought the mighty Dracarian Dominion to its knees without firing a shot. How she transformed her quest for vengeance into a revolution that saved billions. How she lost everything in the first attack, but led the second one, and changed the galaxy forever. Remember her name, Mira Kovac. Remember her lesson, true power isn't in weapons or armies or control. True power is in turning tragedy into transformation. Zerk Tarlok, Chief Historical Archivist, Federation of Free Worlds, formerly the Dracarian Dominion.